long time indeed, but I'm glad to do a quick update report with you all. It's been a lot going on across the globe, across the country, across the continent. It is 11 p.m. It's Friday, January 16th, 2026. I hope everyone is having a beautiful and blessed evening. And my name is Pavio G. I am your host, bringing you the latest headlines with real context and clarity, most importantly. And we'll go ahead and dive right in very quickly. I won't hold you long. When it comes to Russia, Israel, and Iran, tensions in the Middle East are not cooling off, folks. Over the past year, Israel and Iran have been exchanging strikes and counterstrikes, missiles, drones, and aerial attacks, creating real fears of a wider war. Now, in response to the danger, Russia has been urging its citizens in the region to leave Israel while the situation normalizes. Russia's ambassador told state media that or that the risk to lives there right now are very real, and many Russians have already exited via land borders into neighboring countries like Egypt and Jordan. At the same time, in Iran, according here to reports, more than 300 Russian citizens were evacuated over land into Azerbaijan after Iran closed its airspace amid escalating hostilities stemming from Israeli strikes on Iranian military and nuclear sites. I apologize. So this isn't just diplomatic caution, it's a vivid signal that global insecurity is spreading, of course, with major powers prepping or preparing, shall I say, for broader fallout. Here back home in Minneapolis, not here where I'm at, but here in the United States in Minneapolis, all the recent protests and this whole Insurrection Act deal. I want to explain it a little bit to folks who are unsure what the deal is or what's what. Now in the US, news and all over social media, people have been saying, what's this whole talk about the Insurrection Act? And why would a US president even consider invoking it? This week, if you're not informed, in Minneapolis, Minnesota, protests have been ongoing, sparked by the tragic death of Renee Good, a woman that was fatally shot by an immigration and customs enforcement officer during federal enforcement operations. And to them, it was justifiable. And to me, my personal opinion, it was not justifiable at all for not even one reason. If you can kill your own white people, I don't know what they'll do. So when you think about it, it's all messed up in all type of ways. But anywho's, in the midst of those protests, President Donald Trump publicly threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act, a 19th century, listen folks, a 19th century law that would allow him to deploy, or send out U.S. military forces domestically to suppress what he calls insurrection or civil disorder is what he calls it. Okay. So again, I repeat for those of you who are not informed, in the midst of all of these protests that have been going on, President Donald Trump of the United States, Yellow Man, aka known as Yellow Man, publicly threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act, which is a 19th century law, that would allow him to deploy U.S. military forces domestically to suppress what he calls insurrection or civil disorder. Now, before we go any further, let's break that down. The Insurrection Act of 1807 is a federal statute that permits a president to use U.S. military forces, including active duty troops within the United States, when and only, number one, there is an uprising or rebellion that makes it impractical to enforce the law by ordinary means. And I'm going to stop there very quickly, just to put it on the record. The current essay that I'm working on and doing my research on and putting it all together is modern day slavery. And I've been working on this for more than a year now, and I'm putting it all together. and trying to make it right. And it's going to take a little bit longer because modern day slavery is so deep within the system right now. Slavery was always a deep systematic construction and framework that was made by the white man, shall I say, because it wasn't no Asian man governing over the black man in the cotton field. I can promise you that. So for facts and clarity, the white man governing over the cotton fields, or the overseer is what they were known as, the slaveholders, those Johns. A lot of these laws were enacted to hold black people, to put black people down. Now, when I go over that number one again, listen to it very clearly. There's an uprising or a rebellion. See, they thought black folks during slavery time, of course, they thought that because we wanted our freedom, we were becoming rebellious. So they wanted to make sure that there were practical laws in place after the Emancipation Proclamation to make sure that supposedly to a lot of these white overseers and slaveholders, they didn't want the black folks to be rebellious or have an uprising. So let's just make that clear just for the history books. Number two, also, when local authorities cannot or will not maintain order, when is an insurrection act supposed to be active? Number two is when local authorities cannot or will not maintain order. And this is not what's occurring in Minneapolis. There is enough order. There's enough police order. There's no rebellion. There's no uprising. People are just simply pissed, and they're enacting their First Amendment rights, which is to protest, which is to have speech, freedom of speech. Supposedly, they call this place the land of the free. It seems like more of the land of the jail. But it essentially overrides the Posse Comitatus Act, okay? And that's spelled Posse, so you can do your own research. Comitatus Act, Comitatus Act. So the Posse Comitatus Act, which normally forbids the military from engaging in civilian law enforcement. Historically, it's been used during civil rights conflicts and for major urban unrest, but it's rare. The last significant invocation was during the 1992 Los Angeles riots. Now, you may say to yourself, why is Trump talking about this now? I'm not shocked. A lot of people are not shocked about the decisions that Yellow Man makes on a regular basis, right? But we have to be concerned about it because the decisions that he's making within the White House itself is affecting and causing a trickling effect from the top down on the poor people and the middle class people, normal people like us. I say normal because we're not sitting around the coffee table sipping on our tea and eating steak while other people at the bottom are barely trying to get oatmeal or cereal inside of their home. Let's be realistic here. But anywho, President Trump and his team, let's answer that question together real quick. Why is Trump talking about this now? President Trump and his team argue that ongoing protests and resistance to federal immigration enforcement amount to obstruction of law and insurrection. He's framed this as a law and order issue, saying if state and local officials don't enforce laws the way he wants, he might call in the military to do it. That's ludicrous. Now, critics, including constitutional scholars and civil liberty advocates, say that this is 100%, 200% dangerous overreach. They argue the following, that this law was meant for true rebellion, not citizen protest. Using the military in U.S. cities can erode civil liberties. This is no clear threshold for what constitution and what constitutes for insurrection. Okay, in fact, court challenges and legal pushback are already underway, and a federal judge has issued orders limiting how federal agents can operate against peaceful protesters in Minneapolis. Very important to notate. Just within the last 24 hours, Trump backtracked slightly, saying there's, quote, no reason right now, end quote, to use the Insurrection Act. But the conversation hasn't gone away, according to the Times of India and 8 other reputable sources. Why does this matter to all of you? Why does this matter to me? Why does this matter to anybody? This is not just a local protest story. This is a national debate about what? Number one, it's a national debate about the limits of presidential power, the role of the military in civilian life, the relationship between federal authority and local governance, and how the government responds to civil unrest and tragedy in American communities, especially following the death of a mother of three, Miss Renee Good, in Minneapolis. Many are asking the following: why militarize a crisis that began with a law enforcement encounter? Why? Why do such a thing? Why threaten to deploy the military against your own citizens? You must ask yourself this. Even the folks who voted for him, you must ask yourself these key questions. Why militarize a crisis that began with a law enforcement encounter? And why threaten to deploy the military against your own citizens? But you are the president of the United States, Mr. Yellow Man. You have to answer the people. You are obligated to answer the people. And what president does, what type of precedent does that set for future administrations? These are questions, okay, that are very, very important to consider. Very, very important to consider. Anyways, that is your live update on global tensions and domestic constitutional conflict. We will bring you deeper analysis in our next program. Please stay informed, stay engaged, and stay critical. My name is Pavio Gia. I am your host. I thank you all for listening for another quick episode of War Notes. You all have a beautiful and blessed day. And thank you all for listening. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do so if you wish to do so. And make sure you check out other links that I have available too. You can check out my Facebook. You can also check out books that I've written too as well. All you have to do is Google Pavio Gallegos and I will come up. Also check out my latest book, Trump's Revenge on MAGA and the People. I think you all will love it. It's a great read. I thank you all so much for tuning in. Have a beautiful and blessed evening.